Hey everybody, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host Anne, and disembodied brain Justin. Justin is just activating the typing of the keyboard by his mind now, really. He's just like using his mind to control John. John is like Justin's disembodied hands now, I think. I'm pretty sure that's the story. But anyway, hi guys, how's it going? We're gonna flip to minicam pretty quick today. You can see my face anyway normally. I don't see anybody chatting yet. Did you give up on me? Are you all gone? Should I just go and like eat a second breakfast? Let's see, what should we do today? I think we're to the spear, really. Let me see. Hey, Polaris and War Shadow. Justin Mind Flayer confirmed. Yes, you're here. You're just quiet. You're working on your stuff. I totally get it. Yeah, I guess I've got to do the bronze on the knee here too, so we could do the bronze on the spear and stuff. And I need to put some red over here too. I need to remember to do the red on the bikini bottom down here. And put my straps in, which I think are just going to be black rather than a color. Although I guess I could do red. I don't know, it's that whole repeating colors thing, right? You're not really looking at the model from the back usually, but if you do look at this model from the back, you only have that one splash of red up top. You don't have any more reds. So maybe we'll make the straps red. And I'm rethinking the feathers being red. If I make the straps red up there, I could make the feathers like more of a white. Maybe with some red markings. Or black and red. So yeah, I'm still thinking. Yeah, the shield is really the centerpiece in a way. I mean, it's... yeah, let's commit. Let's do the red. Let's do the red today. I keep saying we're going to do the red and then not doing the red. So we'll get some heraldic red and fire red. Fire red, as you can see, is lighter than heraldic. It can make a nice starting highlight for you. If you're going up with white, which I do tend to do these days. And if I'm going up with white, then typically you want to use a colder shadow for your red. So let's see, what do I want to use today? Do I want to use Succubus Kiss? Do I want to use like Kraken ink? Do I want to use... There's so many like nice dark reds or colder reds that I could use. Shading purple or red with purple is kind of a no-brainer. Like you can always use a darker red, but if you want to go cooler, then you shift toward blue. So that is definitely purple territory. I could use burgundy wine. Sure, let's use burgundy wine. I haven't used it for a while. I'll do that. You could also just shift toward violet red, although that's not... It is darker, as you can see. So really, if you're looking for a triad and you're using a strength paint that's near full strength, going heraldic to fire and then down to violet is not a bad call. Hello, everybody. Alrighty, so let's see. First, I want to block in all the rest of my red. I think I want to grab some cream color and repaint these feathers. Or maybe I'll do them black. Because I think I'm going to... that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do them black feathers. Like crow feathers. That would be in keeping. And that would add a bit of story. And then I could do the straps in black on the bikini top, and maybe I could even, maybe the straps black down there. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that. That sounds actually pretty cool. Gonna get my heraldic red out here. Heraldic is kind of my go-to red for base coats, like starting here and then going up and down from there. Let me get this girl up here where we can focus on her. Get close. There we go. Boop, we'll get a little closer. It is kind of a trying day for me. Our water is shut off because they're renovating an apartment across the way, so they had to put in like the new tub and sink, and that means shutting off plumbing and reconnecting it, you know, that kind of thing. So they left themselves a very long window for that, so it's somewhat trying. We had water early, but then now there is no water, so. Hello, everybody. Hi, Trouble. And Shuttle and everybody. But yeah, so my day is kind of blah. I don't know. I've been having kind of a blah week. I don't know what it is. I've been kind of trying to tackle it. You know, where you just have one of those weeks where you feel kind of tired and you're just like blarg, you know? Like you need to kind of reassess and back up and figure out where the heck you are. Some nights, some weeks, I'm just like a fireball and I just like have all this energy and I just hit everything. And sometimes you just don't. Oh, you did your first yoga. Did you take it easy, Trouble? Because you want to take it easy when you first start. I learned the hard way that way. I couldn't do the whole yoga thing on YouTube with David until I was like, after I'd started doing it in the morning, then it took me like a few weeks. Dinner was good. I have a picture. Hold on. David took a picture of his plate. Then we were informed by his colleagues in Ireland that it was definitely an American St. Patrick's Day. But that's what dinner was last night. So we did little loaves of Irish soda bread. And then we did roasted potatoes and carrots instead of doing the boiled potatoes and carrots, because I just think they taste better. And then I managed to get the cabbage to stay green, even though it was perfectly like yummy and forkable. And then there was the corned beef. So yes, that was our dinner last night. So I did everything, and I was just tired. Hello, at your Creos. Creos, it's coming to life, obviously. So she's stone, and the magic is bringing her to life. This is how I tend to paint living statues. I think that painting them just as statues is boring as blazes, and I prefer to have the magic actually bring them to life, so that's why we're doing it this way. So she has obviously seen an intruder, and her weapon arm is the first thing to activate, and then the magic sweeps across her body and begins to bring everything else to life. That is how I like to paint these things. Because, yeah, otherwise, boring. Painting a statue just like a statue, lots of stonework, boring. I mean, fast, right? If you really want some living statues that are just like table, just do it. But if you want to do a cool effect, then this is the way. And I don't think I've seen you in chat before. Are you new, Creos? All right, we're working on red today, so let me get my other colors mixed up. Very new. Did you just start painting? Or are you new to the hobby, I should say? I'm doing some half and half mixes. I use a well palette. So this is what I'm doing right here. Is we are doing I'm doing a 50-50 of heraldic red and burgundy wine to start out my shadow. Don't go straight down to burgundy. But yes, definitely welcome. We're a friendly crew. Reaper has a great community. I have worked for Reaper for almost 18 years, coming up on that 18-year anniversary. I was full-time at their factory for 17 of those years, and then last year I moved out west to be with my guy, so now I am remote part-time doing streaming for Reaper. Every morning I am on here, doing a different model every day for the most part. We have a kind of a rotation. New to Twitch, okay. Oh, yeah. Well, Twitch and YouTube between them can share a lot of great painting tips with you. All right, then let's get our fire red out here. And the fire red, we probably can go just straight. We probably don't need to do a 50-50 mix. It's just a bit lighter, as you can see, just a titch lighter. If I want to make sure the pigments really work together, I'll take a brush full of this, put it into this, and then add probably a drop of white to bring it back up a little bit. Because as it is, the fire red is so close to the heraldic that it could use just a little bit of a boost to make it be a really good highlight for it. Because if you do, unless you're using your paint full strength, if you use your paint full strength, then fire can be an effective highlight for heraldic. But if you thin your paint at all, and as you all know, I do, then you need a little bit more pop. So I'm just going to do a tiny dab of white there. I used about a half drop, and by half drop, I mean I squeeze out a little bit, I dab it on the side of the palette, so I don't get a full drop, I get a partial drop. So I should say partial. It's probably not half, although I think it's close. Yeah, Creos, I created the Master Series paint line for Reaper. It's what I did when I worked there for all those years. So I am she who knows why the paint works, why it does. I know just enough paint chemistry to make me dangerous. Or to get myself in trouble. And so if you have any questions about technical questions about paint and brushes and techniques and why they work and why they don't work and what you're having, troubleshooting and all that, I'm your girl. We do not mind getting derailed on this stream. We kind of depend on it. Kaz, I have no idea when the next AMA is. That would be a disembodied Justin question. They were setting general goals. Yeah, Krios, for sure. Yeah, I personally, like I said, I worked for GW for a while, so I have a pretty in-depth knowledge of their older paint line. The new paint line I don't, because I stopped working for them, obviously 18 years ago. So, or 19 years ago. Jeez. Too long. But, yeah, so, I mean, it was always useful to me to have those, like clear green as an equivalent for the old snot green, for example. But people are mostly looking for equivalents for stuff. Let's see how that is. It's really subtle. I may need to put a little bit more white in this. But people are mostly looking for equivalents for the weird colors. Like rich leather, rich leather is pretty close to snakebite leather, the old snakebite. Either that or polished leather. Those two colors play off each other, and with one of them or with both, you could probably hit the old snakebite pretty easily. I think rich leather is closer. But I don't have a direct sample of snakebite anymore to compare to, so. But that's one that people ask me. A lot of times I'll ask about goblin green, and that is meadow green in the bones line. And then pale flesh is an equivalent for the old pallid flesh. So, yeah, there's a lot of, the clear brights were directly based on the old hex bottle, the clear hex bottle GWs, because they were so high acrylic that they were really transparent, but they were really vibrant. And I personally loved that because I used them to highlight other colors really, I thought that they worked wonderfully for that. I didn't have to work with them a lot to get them to the right consistency. So in a lot of ways, the old Games Workshop line had a direct impact on some of the more unique paints from Master Series. So like the old transparent blood red, like the really, really bright one, that's clear red, pretty much. It's a different base and everything, but if you're looking for this GW line, which was the GW line I was using in my heyday. But yeah, all right. So looking at that, you can see the highlight. Like you can see that it's lighter. You can also see that you can see the demarcation line there. So I'm not blending it in really, I could blend it better. Let's just put it that way. So you can see that line there for the highlight. I'm just trying to get it kind of on that upper edge just a little bit because that's where you can see that's where the light would be. So I also probably need to carry it across here, like right up to the edge here. But I'm still not convinced this is light enough. I think I need a little more pop to it. Because I thin my paint so much, I tend to do greater transitions. So guys, make a note of how you tend to work. And if you work with thicker paint, then your highlights can be closer to the previous coat in color. But if you thin your paint all the time, you want a bigger step between colors. Like right now, the step between here is probably 2 levels. Like those who know what are on my Patreon and watched my $2 video this month know what I mean. As far as the gradient, the grayscale. But this is probably only 1, so it's not as much. And I find that I really need to be 2 steps. And then of course I'm adding white to lighten it, which means I need to add more water or it won't blend well. So another big drop of water in there, just off my brush. Sometimes I use my squeezy bottle of water. Sometimes I just grab water from the water well. Either way. But yeah, Chris, the only thing I can't do, like I said, is the current GW paint line. And those feathers are really annoying me now. Now that I've made the decision to change them. Shall I use a canceled color or shall I be a good girl? I should probably be a good girl. Let me grab, oh no, not that one. Let me grab, nope, not that one either. Where's my desert sand? There it is. Desert sand is a good enough stand-in for what I would normally use, which would be stained ivory, which is a color that was sadly canceled. One of the many colors that I considered infinitely useful that were canceled. Because of low sales. I'm going to shake this up a lot because I haven't used it for a while. And it's a nice creamy beige color. It's a little bit more muted, more grayed out than stained ivory was. Stained ivory had a lot of brown in it. But for feathers that I want to be off-white, this is not a bad start at all. Just add a drop of water. Because I tend to do my base coat at 4:1. And if you have any questions, people who are new watching today, shoot. I do not mind being derailed. I like being derailed. Well, most of the time you won't get equivalents across paint lines because unless a paint line designer sets out to do so, inevitably they will not copy precisely colors that you are used to. So it's actually very hard, you know, to find an equivalent unless the designer has set out to do that, and that I think is pretty much unknown. I could be wrong about that. I mean, there are some standard colors like bright reds and stuff that are going to be equivalents, but otherwise, when you get to the more complex and muted colors, especially colors that are like specialty colors for a particular army or something, that's where you're just not going to find an equivalent. You're probably going to have to mix it. And it's not the fault of the paint line designer. They just didn't set out to do that color. If everybody just copied everybody else's colors, it'd be a pretty boring paint universe, in my opinion. Gonna get this side on this side, since I've decided. I think I'm going to be much happier going off color. Oh, that's right, I was gonna go black, wasn't I? I'm so, like, totally brained out today. Good morning, Splat. Yep, they redesigned the bottle specifically. Some people say. I was not in those meetings, but I have had it told to me by GW employees that those bottles were designed to dry out. I know which ones you're talking about, is when they had Coat d'Arms making their paint. The more misted over, taller hex bottles. You know, they weren't clear. The bottle itself. All right, I'm gonna go. Oh, this will let me check. Yeah, I definitely want to go black with that. Like, looking at the white now, that's distracting because it's the lightest thing on the model. I mean, it does work to a point, but I'm not sold. I'm not sold. I think I want to go with crow feathers instead. Hey, Clavicus, thank you for the resub. Awesome, 11 months. Thank you so much. The interesting thing about the various Games Workshop iterations is how different they are. Like, Coat d'Arms was a more, like, sticky, more gloopy base that was a softer base, but it didn't have as good adhesion. It would rub off more. So then they switched to the clear hexes, like the one that I showed, and those were very high acrylic, so they stuck really well to the model, but they didn't have coverage, and GW has gone back and forth. After that line, though, they started switching to higher coverage lines. And now, of course, they've got their current line where they're trying to take all the work out and give you specific paints for specific tasks. They want to hand you a fish, not teach you to fish. Which is cool because, I mean, their base wants a way to get decent paint jobs onto their models so that they can play the game and be happy with their army. So it's all about goals, right? When you're designing a paint line, it's all about what are you trying to do? I'm going to get some liner. Actually, I'm using walnut for this one. And then I need my pure black, which is hiding over here because I don't use it very often, but I need it for raven feathers. GW fish, $50, yep. Yeah, that's what people tend to come to. Like, I think when you get to a certain level in the hobby, Krios, you want to, what am I saying? Competent with the beginning, kind of the beginning to intermediate paint jobs. And then you start getting interested maybe in painting more. And you're like, hey, I wonder if I could do, this cool stuff that I see other people doing. And that's when you start stretching a bit and getting out and wanting to learn to actually fish. So yeah, again, it's your goal, right? And I think a lot of GW people who start in Games Workshop get to that level, like they get interested in the hobbying aspect, which is, great, I think, because if you can enjoy playing and you can enjoy like the painting and hobbying side of the hobby, then you're golden, right? Pandemic comes along and you decide to paint your new army because you can't play right now. And then when the pandemic is done, you get to go back and play with your fully painted, awesome looking army, right? That would have been like, that should have been GW's push for during the pandemic. They should have been like, hey, this is your chance. Let's have a paint a new army challenge. Maybe they did and I missed it. Yeah, that's true, Muses. Except that in my experience as a freelance painter, the people that truly don't have time to fish are paying people like Aaron Lovejoy to paint their armies. Unless they just can't afford to get their army painted. And then, yeah, I don't know that even the Games Workshop approach is going to help then. I mean, yeah, I guess it does. You use a colored primer, you paint in your areas, use washes, use contrast paint. Yeah, everything is a tool. I mean, Luca, who does our miniatures den, who does our, Wednesday show, is it? Wednesday show? I never remember who's on what day. But Luca is very much into, like, crisscrossing paint lines, like, finding out how different paint lines work together. Whereas, since I created my own, I tend to stick to Master Series, and then play a bit with Scale 75's tube paint. Alright, there we go. Now we have black feathers. I think I like that a lot better. The white just wasn't working for me. I like the crow. I like the idea that it's like carrion bird feathers. It also takes it makes the splash of color a little bit more subtle too. And an accent color should stay like smaller generally, so this works with our tactics. Fubeca, I think a lot of people are just like that. I mean, you look at concept art for living statues, nobody's doing it like this. Or very few, I should say. It's not like I have all the ideas in the world either. I mean, a lot of times I'll get an idea for a cool paint job or a cool take on a monster by seeing somebody else's concept art. Just getting the underside of the feather over here so that it can be black. And to be fair, I started painting like living statues like this ages ago, like back before I started with Reaper. I just thought that it was a cool take, and so I just did it, and I liked the effect so much that I stuck with it. Rubbing paint off. Getting paint on myself, and then our water is shut off today, so I can't wash it off. There we go. There we go. Just Reaper Live this evening. Oh, a Sadie show moved to Saturdays. Interesting. Saturday programming. That's good to know. Yeah, I'm doing my stream this afternoon on twitch.tv/paintingbig. I'll probably work on Halfling Girl. My headless, currently headless, 80mm or 75mm Halfling Girl. I'll probably work on her pink more. Trying to get the love back. I got derailed, but yeah, she's coming along, so probably we'll work on her. Might start blocking in the leather. Alrighty, so there we are. So let's get the red. Okay, so we've got our red up there. We have our red on the front of the bikini. We need our red to go on the back. Haha, that's not happening, Pendrake. Welcome to Reaper. Gargoyles. Well, look at all the different rocks and Google interesting stone textures or interesting stone colors. Of course, it also matters like what, where the gargoyles are, right? So I'm going to take my cream color here, guys, and actually do an underpainting on the bikini here. Since I want the red to be bright right away. And if I try to put it over this dark color, it's not going to be very bright. So I'm going to do a stripe of a white color here. Or light. Doesn't even have to be white. I mean, I underpaint in pure white a lot, but I'm going to paint it and leave a little bit of a dark rim around it. And kind of make it a swoopy. Kind of go with where I see the skin color starting to fade out. Leave a little bit of irregularity there at the edge so that it looks like it's blending in a bit. But then I need to get that gray back over here and line it up with that. Probably going to be gray then, or shadow, though you might be able to make them... The problem with gargoyles is that if you don't go with the gray stone, you're necessarily, when you change color to like a warmer color, it tends to be, it's the mood, right? You want that moody gothic feel, so you almost always have to go for a dark gray or black. So now I'm going to paint over that cream color that I did with red, and it's going to make my red much brighter than it would have been trying to put it over that dark color. I mean, I might do them like basalt, like black, highlighted with like some stone gray. But I think it's hard to go any other color when you're trying to get that mood. Because at that point, part of your color selection is mood. You want to emphasize the gothic darkness of the setting. So you don't want to go with something light and happy like a, tan or reddish brown sandstone. It'll just give you the wrong feel. Hi, Cookie. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I always introduce a little bit of brown or something into gargoyles. Because I feel like the neutral grays are a bit boring for stone war shadow. Almost all stone has like a shift in one direction or another. It isn't just neutral, perfectly neutral gray. It has other minerals in it. So you could do stormy gray or take some stormy gray and put some blue in it or some brown in it or even some green. Although with mountains, probably not in the winter. But you could give it, even if you just gave it a hint of green, it probably would be fine, actually. You could even mix a teal into it if you wanted, just to make it different. But just a little bit. All you need to do is shift it away from neutral. You don't want to look at the model and instantly see that color. Let's see if I like these bands done in red down here. I think I will. Just a little bit more of repeating the colors around the model. But yeah, really, you could also spice them up by like doing some like icicles to hang off of them or something, or shadow. You can use Woodland Scenics water effects to make icicles. It's so easy to do that. I don't remember if I've actually done... I think I showed that once on stream. It's not hard. Alright, there we go. So we got our red blocked in. I am actually missing a little bit up here. I can see some white. Or you could put a little bit of snow on their shoulders, I suppose, although that would come off pretty quick. Yeah, then I would just do a little bit of it. Like with the stormy gray, you could do like a 6-to-1. And then just add white to bring it up. Alright, so now I need to get my pink color here, and I'll need to mix another highlight. And the last highlight I'm going to do, I bring up my red pretty sharp, especially when it's on little areas like this handle, where you can see the little tiny highlights. I I need just a bit of a light pink to do those. So I'm going to take a big brushful or two of my kind of strawberry pink that I've got going on here. And I'm going to add a drop of white, maybe 2. And I always build my highlights, almost always build my highlights like this, where I am just working pretty much up with white. Although I do start sometimes with, like I said, I started with fire red here, but ended up adding more white to shift it. And I did put a drop of this in. And that's another thing that you'll notice in my style is that I'll always take a drop of my previous mix and kind of mix it into the next mix to help them go together if I need them to blend. All right, big brush full of water here. Just loaded a bunch of white into that. 2 drops. That's pretty good. We'll see how that does. It might not actually be solid enough. I may have thinned it a little too much, but we'll see. Alrighty. Where is my... There it is. So that's my gamut of red colors here. Base coat, 1 shadow so far, 2 highlights. Let's rock. Yeah. I mean, I used to always highlight my red with orange and yellow Grey Wolf, but when I decided to do a colder red, more toward blue and purple, then I'm definitely working with pink to bring it up. On occasion, I have worked with purple and then highlighted with orange. It tends to make a very anime. It gets much more cartoony. It's much more bright. It's much less natural. How about that? Here I am going for more natural. So I'm taking my my 50-50 mix of heraldic red and burgundy wine now, which makes a very pretty reddish purple. And I'm putting in some shadows. So I'm kind of like putting my shield around. I'm seeing that most of this is in shadow. And so I'm bringing it down by brushing a thin coat of the shadow color for my red over it. Darkening it down when it's on the underside of the shield where the light would not be falling. Kind of helping to redefine all these little areas that maybe got a little bit weird when I was highlighting the stonework. So now you see the dark, see the shadow. And that definitely cools it down, right? So now I have to ask myself, I have to kind of like look at my light source and say, I probably do need some dark right here. Oh, I think she's coming to life. I mean, her weapon is lifting. I think there's no question that she's coming to life. Big Apple. Don't think I ever said otherwise. It's much, if she's turning back to stone, that's not exciting at all. That's why. The story is, at that point, the story's over, right? Like, why would you never want to do that when you're doing any sort of piece, actually. Like, the only time I can think of that you would want to, like, suggest that the story is already over is if it's kind of like the climax of a big scene that still has a lot of emotional impact, you know, like a knight bending over the body of his dead sweetheart or something like that. That would obviously be after the big fight, but it would still be an interesting moment to portray because of the emotional impact. But a statue turning back to stone, that's why if she was not a statue, the impactful moment would be her turning to stone, right? If she was an adventurer, that would be impactful. But if you're dealing with a statue, you never want to suggest that she's like turning back to stone because that's boring. Yeah, Fubeka. Yeah. Oh yeah, the original. He went very blue with his stone, didn't he, Derek? I remember that's such a great piece of art. Fantastic piece of art. But yeah, I mean, that goes with what I was saying earlier, right? Where you're like, I use a lot of 2D artist concept art as inspiration for my paint jobs. And I think obviously Derek does also. We'll darken down that shadow. I'm going to darken down this shadow. And see how I like it. If I go too dark with this, then I can always bring it back up. Yeah, but there are, I mean, if you're going for comedy, like the dragon pulling chunks of armor out of its teeth, or if you're going for kind of a post pivotal scene moment, then as long as it's got impact. Alright, we're going to bring this down a little bit, but not as much as it is down there. So I'm really darkening it down now. I started with fair subtlety, and then I decided I was going to pump it up. Pump up the contrast. So now we've got a much darker shift, see, across that. That means our highlight is going to look more impactful. Deep teal blue. Yeah, with red accents on Strahd. Yeah, gray and brown on the stone. Interesting. Yeah, that would be cool. So yeah, totally always do that. Cool Medusa fig. Yeah, but then why is she a statue, right? Like, then you should have that Medusa be by an adventurer. Like, I don't know. Because she's a statue, that implies that she started static. That's why. It's up to you, though. I mean, it's your story. Tell it. Whether it's effective or not, your friends will tell you. They'll probably just think the effect is cool, so it probably won't matter to them. I just think a little bit too much about story in my pieces. I find that it helps me creatively. But you certainly don't have to work the way I do. Nobody works the way anybody else does. Find your own road. Use the suggestions that are useful to you. And discard the selections that are not. But I love, I actually really like living statues, like as a monster. I think they're super fantastic. We were talking about this at some point in an earlier stream on this topic, but I always loved the scene in Young Sherlock Holmes where the stained glass window comes to life. And ever since I saw that as a kid, I have been in love with living statues of various sorts. And animated figures that come to life. There we go. There's a nice sharp highlight. Let's see how that looks. You always want to kind of compare it, make sure it's consistent with your lighting and with what's going on. That red looks a lot better now. Much sharper highlight up there, right along here. I want to make it a little round because this is a rounded shield, so your highlight should emulate the surface. The shape of the highlight should match the shape of the surface it's on. So you've got to kind of suggest a round highlight here, even though it's kind of cut up, right? But I still need my highlight to not just be a line. I need it to be rounder. Yep. Jonas was the first lighting effect I ever did, Trash. By the way. With him, it wasn't, the inspiration for him wasn't, a piece of concept art, like, that I remember, but I loved Ravenloft. The thing that made me, want to do that was I loved the pieces I'd seen. I think, Victoria Lamb probably was a big subconscious inspiration, because she did a lot of scenes with fire and then blue light, blue and orange. And I really liked the way that those things contrasted. So when I did him, I chose to make his sensor orange and do the undead energy as cold and blue, which I thought fit. He's the one I'm thinking of, right? Yep, that's the one. And in retrospect, this piece has several problems with it. They reshot it. I always thought it was much better on its dark background. But the picture there is making the orange really come out more than I think it does in person. But I didn't, some things that I did incorrectly in there, as I didn't drop off the orange as quickly as it needed to. Like when the object moves farther away from the light, your light should get dimmer exponentially. And I did not do that effectively on that piece. I did it pretty well on the cape. Like I understood that the light on the cape needed to be more subtle, and there you're hitting a hard shadow, so you're not seeing as much of the lighting I did on the cape. This is actually an excellent example as to how good photography, is very important in conveying like the essence of your model online. If you like to upload your pieces to sites where, you know, people kind of get to look at your stuff, then learn to take better pictures. Yeah, I feel like that picture makes the orange look brighter than it is, and but the blue is very effective still. So the blue glow I kept very much close around the skeletal hands because I didn't want it to go too far. There we go. The red on the shield looks great now. I'm very happy with that. All right, cool. Now we gotta touch up the red on some other surfaces, and we move to bronze. But yeah, so no, there wasn't really a 2D art inspiration there. It was more Victoria's stuff with her. I'm trying to think about. It wasn't the Sister Joan one. It was the orc juggernaut getting hit with the Sister Battle flamer, I think. But Vic did a lot of those kind of colors, like putting them kind of opposite each other with a lighting effect. Like she'd do moonlight and then torchlight. And I liked that effect a lot, so I decided that I wanted to try something like it in my first attempt at OSL. I've learned a lot more about OSL since then. I feel like I do it much better now, but because I understand light a lot more than I used to. But, I mean, that's how you start to understand it, War Shadow. I still do that. You know what? Okay, so here. I'm the silly person who, like, notices the mini, because I've got 3 light sources in here, right? I've got the sun, i.e. my big LED round ring light. I've got my little Reaper L light, and then I've got light from outside, which tends to be a different color, right? This is going to be warmer, and the light from outside is going to be cooler. Let's see if I can show you guys what I mean. I don't think she's very far back. Yeah, she's not. So I had this model, my dwarf, where she was standing with the warm light on the front and the cool window light on the back. Can you see? See how that light is warm and this light is cold? And so I took a bunch of pictures of her in the round. See, there's the light on the shoulder. This is the light on the front, is all warm. But then look at this. Look at how beautiful this is. Like the warm light on the front of the figure and then the cold light. You can even see the demarcation where it falls. And even here, where the warm light is on the front of the arm and the cold light is on the back of the arm. Looking at this sort of stuff and really recognizing it is part of like getting better at understanding like lighting. So don't be, if you tend to like use a phone to take pictures, there's a better look. Then, you know, this is a great exercise for you because you can note it. And note too that where the two meet, there's a shadow. Always happens when you have conflicting light sources, is you've got that shadow running down the middle, kind of giving the two like a place where they kind of meet and then go off in their own direction. So yes, we do this. I do this still. Take a picture of the model. I did that with my, for my lioness, for my Sky Earth piece, because I felt like I needed the help. I felt like I needed something to keep me honest. So, and to keep referring to it so I understood where the light was hitting strongest. So yeah, you're not basic. You're doing it right, War Shadow. You are doing it right. Keep doing it right. It takes a while for your brain to get kind of into the whole idea of directed light, right? Especially if you're coming from somewhere like the Games Workshop hobby, which I was, you know, in D&D, where at the time I was starting, there really wasn't a lot of guidance out there on painting. And usually they'd say, well, if the area sticks out, highlight it, which is good enough so far as it goes, but it doesn't really teach you to think about light, right? And then when you try to get into like NMM, you freak out because you just don't get it. And it took me a long time of just kind of staring at metal things and trying to understand what I was seeing. Even though I could paint and blend really well, I didn't understand lighting. So, yeah, exactly, Declearman. Definitely adjust your warming cool, because my LED light is also adjustable, and so is this one. So you can set up a scenario where you have a very warm light and a very cold light. With her, I was either going to do a very cold, like Arctic winter daylight on the front of her, and do a warm forge light on the back of her, like she's coming up out of a cave or out of a forge, or I was going to reverse it and do warm sunlight on the front of her and more of a cold backlight, like she's got a magical light or something behind her. I haven't decided yet. But when you start thinking about light and when you start getting comfortable about it, I mean, the first thing to do, War Shadow, is honestly to just hold the mini under light and snap a phone photo and then paint what you see. Think about what you're painting when you paint it. Like, when you're painting what you see, kind of say, oh yeah, the light is hitting this part because it's turned fully toward it. And then it kind of fades off on the sides because then it's turning away from the light. And kind of just, teach yourself that way to understand what you're seeing. A little bit of shadow. I need some shadows down here. I'm going to put them in the middle. Middle, bottom. Yeah. Yeah, I can adjust both of my LED lights, although the sun is always going to be my, it overwhelms everything else. When the sun is on, it's funny because I'll stop painting some nights, I'll turn the sun off, and the room will be plunged into darkness because it was the only light source we had on, because it was the only one we needed. So the sun is rather overwhelming. I could turn the sun down a bit, but where's the fun in that? I do love this light, that said, even though I joke about it. Just putting a little bit of a highlight along the top of these straps now. And if I really want to punch it, I'm going to take my pink and put a line highlight along the top edge. These are just little details. They don't need as much attention to realism. It's kind of little tertiary splashes of color. Line highlighting is okay when the area is like the correct shape and you aren't looking to do a hugely impactful job on it, but see how that line highlight does totally pick up that strap and make it look 3D. So there we go. That's better. I do need a little bit up here. So again, this is going to be kind of like I put these very high highlights. You can see them stick out on the front here. So taking it up higher on the highlights is often very good for bringing out small details. There. Now these guys, I think on the front I used kind of little stippling strokes. Yeah, to suggest that the wrap was worn. And I will do that over here too, but I want to line around these first. But yeah, lighting seems, intimidating, but it's really not. A lot of the basic lighting is very common sense. It's just then sometimes you question, what do you do with the underside areas? And the answer to that is very dependent on what sort of light sourcing you're doing and how bright it is. Some painters choose to do more of a round lighting, like Sergio does the same light sourcing on the front and the back of the model. Even though it would seem not to be natural, but it's like, you've got to, you're either going to light the model as if you were walking around it, or you're going to light it like you're turning it around. And Sergio has chosen to do the same light source from both sides, as if you have the model in your hand and you're turning it around in your hand, instead of trying to, if you've got a frontal light source, painting the back in shadow. And so there are painters who twist the laws of light all the time and still come up with amazing paint jobs. So don't worry if you feel like you're doing something weird, just do it. If it looks good, do it. and just explain, you know, well, this is the way I chose to light it. There are plenty of really good painters out there doing interesting things like that. Just to have a reason for doing it, right? Sergio has a definite reason for doing it that way. And for him, it's purely aesthetic and less realistic. So, but look at how different people do their lighting and highlighting, definitely. Because a lot of different painters will take it a lot of different ways. All right, a little bit of highlight up here. With these little strands on the spear, you really only need just a little line highlight. I've been doing, instead of a straight line along the top of each of these little guys, I've been doing a little bit of a stipple to suggest worn leather. So I'm going to try to continue that. My control is not awesome today, but let's get close and I'll try to continue that here. So first I lined around the red so that I had a little bit of shadow. Lining, remember, is very, very stripped down shading. So when you're dealing with small areas, lining is often your only shadow. If you're doing lining. Not everybody has to do lining either. I feel like I've got too much paint on my brush. So remember, after you load your brush, unload it. You want to be able to get a very small... And don't worry if you, like, kind of go over your lining a little bit. You can always touch it up if you want to. So I'm trying to just get it kind of toward the top. But this, I can see already that this isn't as bright as my front ones were. The stippling is not as light. So I might have to go over it again. But that's not too bad. It's just a little bit, when it's too dotty, that's where I'm running into my problems here. Don't want it to like just outright see dots. Kind of want to blur it in a bit. Yeah, and I definitely went over my lining a little bit in a couple places. So I might tighten that up. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Like, I want these to be okay, and if the stippling thing isn't going as well as I wanted it to, then I'll totally do just a line. Sometimes, some days your brush control is going to be amazing, and some days your brush control is not going to be as good. And just go with whatever you can do. Don't keep trying to force when you're just not feeling it. There, that helped a lot. Redefining those dark lines helped a lot. But yeah, I mean, even there are days where my brush control is, like, amazing. Like, where I'm just, like, I can do anything I can imagine. And there are days when I am just not functioning at full capability. And when I try to do something super fine, I will get frustrated. And realizing that and working with it is important. And not yelling at yourself about it, not getting down at yourself about it. It's just some days. Go and play computer games or something. There are days where I'm just like, today is not a good paint day. The paint does not love me today. There, it's a little bit better. There we go. Good enough, really. Alrighty, there, got my highlights there, all over. Looks like our red is good. I think our red is good. Happy to have finally done that. I decided not to do green stuff today because I can't wash my hands with no water in the apartment, not having running water right now. And it would have bugged me to have the chemical green stuff on my hands for like 3 hours. So I decided to do all paint today. All right, well then now the only thing we've got left is the feathers and a bit of the bronze. So it is stretch time, however. It's past stretch time, so let me do that because my back has been groufing at me lately. So we'll put our living statue here to hang out with you guys. I'll give you something to look at while we go do our stretches briefly. Oh, we just they're remodeling an apartment in this building, Pendrake, and they have to hook up a new, they ripped the tub out yesterday, and they're putting new stuff in, so I assume it's just that they have to put stuff in. But it's annoying for us. So stretch, everybody. Oh my gosh, I totally need to do this. Remind my back that it does not, like, go in a C curve over, but that it actually can go the other way. Yeah, sure, Dragon Eye. I have no idea. I mean, I assume it's that Grey Wolf. I could be wrong, but they have been doing a lot of ripping stuff out and putting stuff in and remodeling, so I just assumed it was a remodel. They didn't actually give us an idea or, an actual reason. I just kind of thought that was most likely. Here, let me back up so that we can see this gal. There she is. There. Now she can hang out. Yeah, but who knows? Thanks, David. Welcome to the stream. I'm Anne, doing my stretches, and we take a stretch break to spare my spine and encourage everybody to get up and stretch. Because we all sit at our computers or our painting desks for hours on end, and our poor backs and shoulders want to kill us. There we are. Now I'm going to get down and do some of my little cat cows, and I'll be right back. But yeah, this is how I do living stuff usually, David, is, I was talking about it earlier in the stream, but I've always liked this coming to life kind of thing. If you're going to do something more than just get it on the table, right? If you're going to get it out, you need to get it on the tabletop fast, paint your living statue like it's just stone or metal or whatever, but I always liked the idea that they would actually come to life. Much cooler. Almost done. Just like to get my spine actually functional. Alrighty. Much better. Alright. Now we can come back and maybe do some bronze real quick. I'll have to whip out my green. Back. I have no idea. Like I said, guys, my conjecture could be completely wrong. It could be that there's something wrong with our basic plumbing for the building, and so they have to turn it off and fix something. No idea. Hydrate. Everybody hydrate. Yeah, this isn't, I mean, this is a relatively, it's not a super new apartment. It's been here for a while. Don't know how old it is. They're very nice apartments, but they are not brand new. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have lower back damage, so it's like, I just started doing core exercises, David, every morning. Started about 3 weeks ago? I'm losing track. But I started doing a bit of yoga every morning and some other core stuff, and my back is much better now, but I still need to, I can't do an hour and a half without getting up and just doing a couple of basic stretches, or it will get on me the next day. So yeah, I can push it. I'm much better, much stronger in my core now. So most of the time I'm not in pain, which is awesome. But alrighty, so now we need to do. We just have a bit of bronze, the spear, and then this one turning to life, a leg that's kind of buried behind the shield. So I don't need to do a lot here, because once the shield is attached, it's more or less hidden. But you can still see a little of it. So I'm going to at least shade it. I might not highlight it very much because it's going to be in shadow. Yeah, and it's working. I mean, I gotta say that when I started doing the core exercises is because my boyfriend and I started doing yoga like twice a week after supper, and I couldn't do it. Like, it would break me if I tried to keep up with the full program. But then after I started doing it every morning just at my own speed, now I can do, like this weekend, it was the first time I could do an entire yoga program, like 35 minutes, 40 minutes without, no problem. Like, I'll still be tired at the end and I'll ache a bit, but I can do it. I could never have done that before I started doing just a few exercises. Like, I do 15 or 20 minutes in the morning. It's not a big deal. But it's seriously helped. So if you have back pain, highly recommend doing some yoga core exercises. I added in some crunches and some leg lifts to that to work the abs, but only after I'd been strengthening a bit. All right, let's get our bronze on. Think I need that. Think I need rich leather, which is hiding over here. There it is. Yoga is tough until once you strengthen enough. Like now it's tough, but it's fun. It's gone from tough and OMG to tough and fun. So I enjoy it now. All right, so let's get some new colors. Our bronze is rich leather. And I'm almost out with this bottle finally. And put one drop there. And then a bit, I don't want to do, I don't think I want to do yellow. I'm always redesigning my bronze formulation. I think I probably need another. That's going up too high, too fast. Yeah, it will. It'll let you know. I don't think it's easy though, Inara. Like, if you have like skeletal muscular dysfunction, like your one of your shoulders is higher than the other, or just like, which happens a lot these days when we're all at the computer and we're mousing all day, like we get out of whack up here. David has a hard time doing some of the balance stuff because of that. He has to straighten himself out a lot. And I had trouble too. So I don't know. Some of the moves she does too is like not easy. Some of the crazy moves. I think that you're right though. I do think that the core of yoga, like the exercises at the very basic core of it, are simple, and accessible, relatively accessible. But yeah, when I wasn't strong, I couldn't do it. I had a lot of trouble. I'm gonna do kind of mixes back in, and we're gonna go backwards. I just want to get kind of a succession of my bronze colors going on here. And then I'm going to go straight down. Yeah, Tai Chi, but it wasn't enough of a workout for me, Dogfather. Like, I like that yoga, will actually have me break a sweat. I did a lot of Tai Chi. I took it in college and did it for a long time with a friend when I was in Texas. And I really enjoy it. And it is good for flexibility. I find that for strengthening, though, yoga is better. For me. Purely for me. I have thought about going back to Tai Chi. There are lots of, like, little groups of Tai Chi people doing it here. Like, we live right near two parks, and so there are Tai Chi groups, especially as the weather gets nicer. A lot of people doing Tai Chi in the park. She's the Reaper mascot. Yeah, I mean, we have a couple of mascots, like Mr. Bones is the mascot for Bones, the Bones Kickstarters, and then Sophie is Reaper's overall mascot and has been for a very long time. All right, so let's get this, and let's get some dark green out. We need our dark green to be our verdigris color. I believe I was using the canceled color. Was I using Peacock? Yeah, pretty sure I was. But you can make that color or make something close to it by mixing... like a nice dark green, like pine green, with a bit of clear blue. Close enough. You could also use various other... There we go. There's my peacock green. Peacock green is a really dark, greeny blue, bluey green, teal, whatever you want to call it. You want it to be more green than blue when you have a verdigris color most of the time. Although there certainly is blue verdigris. So you can always look at actual statues and kind of look at the color you see. With bronze, I remember most often seeing dark green though, so I tend to use a dark green or a dark green with a lot of blue in it to be my verdigris color. Alright, so we did some verdigris. Let's get close. Boom. We did some verdigris here on the leg. And so we'll use this color for shading on the other side of the leg as well. You could use clear phthalo blue or clear blue. It doesn't matter what shadow. You just want to give the green a hit of blue, really. You want something that's green with a little bit of blue in it. And if you're looking for lighter verdigris, you can use our verdigris color. We have it in the copper NMM triad. So like for this light area, the light little stipples, that's pretty much how I created that color. So I'm just going to use the verdigris color to be a shadow on the bronze here with the leg that's behind. We're really not going to do much here because this leg is so hidden, but we want to at least do some shading to show that we did do some work on it. Which you can see it slightly. But there's a definite cast shadow there. You can see it. So I'm just painting some of this green over that area and blending it in a little bit. Because it is a pretty heavy shadow. But yeah, what you use for the verdigris color actually isn't very important. Just work with a couple of colors until you find a combo you really like. Because verdigris can be oxidation in general on copper alloys can be so many different colors. Here I'm just using it as a shading color, as you can see, and then I'll work a little bit more of my base. My base color for bronze is Rich Leather 9429. And setting this up is very similar to my NMM gold, but it's less yellow. My gold is a lot more yellow. And I'll put a little bit of highlight up here on top of the knee pad. Maybe a little bit back here. Where it wraps around the leg, because there will be a little more light coming in around there. Alright, that actually is almost good enough. Like, I really don't want a whole lot. I just want enough to show that I paid attention to the area and to show like that it's really got a lot of shadow. So it's going to be like covered up. If we notch that in, that's exactly the way. So it's going to be mostly covered up so you can see how dark it gets, right? But you can still see parts of it. And so I wanted, like, you can see it a bit here. So I still wanted to it to be obvious that I've got some green, some shading, you know, a little bit of highlight there at the top. I'll bring that highlight up just a tad more because it is reflective metal. So a little bit there. Maybe blend that in a little bit. So stuff like that, just to kind of give it a little bit more work. And then we're good. And then we're pretty good. Yay! All right, so now we can do the shield and the spear. We need to leave her there. Sit, stay. Ah! She doesn't like to sit and stay. She's like, no. All right. I'm just going to let her have her way. All right, now I need to really look at where the light's going to fall. So I've already suggested the light's falling pretty strongly along this rim, which means we're going to have, if verdigris is anywhere, it's going to be here. Because that's where water would pool. Would be along this rim here. And putting a green shadow there is nice because it makes our red look a little bit brighter. Then the edge is going to come up. Thanks, Dwarven Forge. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, she's coming along nice. Like putting just a little bit of verdigris here and there, and a little bit of hints of green in the bronze work. So we're almost done. Like we're getting there. Like at this point, just the bronze and the feathers on the spear, and I'm just finishing up the shield. Yeah, it's actually misnamed. There's one of them that looks like metal and one that looks like stone. She's definitely sculpted with a stone helmet. But this is... And there's two versions, I think. One that's weathered and one that's just not. So you can get two versions. But she's really cool. The bikini is painted on to satisfy Twitch. So she's actually naked, as is her male counterpart. There's actually two. But I decided I wanted to paint her first. So yeah. So doing a cool marbly come into life statue. They're really neat. They're really, really neat. I think they were out of the last Kickstarter, Dwarven Forge. The last Bones Kickstarter. All right, so let's see. I'm getting distracted. Distracted Anne! Oh noes! Alrighty. So doing NMM on a surface where you can't even see the whole thing is kind of challenging. So sometimes you got to just kind of break it down. Figure out, like, you probably, on her shield, the shield is round. So, but we know that the light is hitting pretty strongly on this side. So probably I'm going to do a highlight on the edge, and I'm going to hit this edge pretty high. I'm going to bring it up a lot, because that's where the light is falling when I'm looking at the model. So that is probably where our highest highlights would be. So I'm just going to use the edge of my brush just to bring that in. Bring up this highlight a lot toward the top, then let it kind of fade out as it goes down. I think that, you know, blotchy's okay as long as you can nail like where your highlights and shadows go, Dwarven Forge. I think you're peachy. Like I used to believe differently. I still believe that NMM looks better when you can get the smooth blends, but I don't think it's necessary to get a good appearance of metal anymore, because I've done some very quick NMM that is a little bit blotchy, but as long as you can get the highlights and shadows right, you can correctly portray metal. And your blotchiness, you could always, like, you know, blame it on verdigris. Just do some corrosion and hide it. But yeah, I think these days my focus has definitely shifted from the blending aspect of NMM to nailing where your highlights and shadows are. And a lot of people, when they have a problem with NMM, they just aren't bringing their highlights up high enough or putting their shadows dark enough. And getting to that point where you understand it and can execute is difficult, right? So like, if I'm going to bring up my highlight here, I'm going to suggest that my highest highlight is up around this area because that's how I've highlighted my shield. In fact, I can even put a tiny bit of a high highlight on that rivet. That rivet should probably be bronze anyway, come to think of it. Now that I'm looking at it, let's do that. And that'll actually help us to sell that illusion. This NMM is an illusion. You're trying to sell it to the viewer. Make them believe it's real. It's like I'm not blending those rivets at all. Yeah, all your mistakes are battle damage. That works. weapon packs can be good for that, chibi. Just you know, make sure that you know where your light source is coming from. With since you don't have a model actually holding the weapons, sometimes you can forget. It's easy to forget. All right, so I'm gonna bring in that light. I'm gonna knock it down a little bit as it goes lower. I want it to be more toward the top of the metal here. There, but at least now I've got the suggestion. Yeah. Now I'm gonna... In fact, if you don't want to blend, you can always stipple your highlights on. Suggest that the surface is pitted or worn or a beaten metal instead of a smooth metal. That all works. Because if the surface isn't smooth, you're not going to get smooth highlights anyway. And I think I want to bring more green in here. Because if you've got corrosion, you can make it have irregular patterns. It would not be regular. A little bit of green, a little bit of green. I want to make this edge, since it's kind of hitting, like this is in shadow. This is perpendicular to my light surface. So I need to add a darker shadow. I'm going to use my walnut brown and mix it with my rich leather to create that shadow. Yeah, don't sweat about your blending. Like it's easier, I find, to practice blending on things like cloth. And then with the NMM, just to focus on your highlights and shadows. And the blending will come. All right, let's do a little bit of a dark shadow underneath this, and probably going to need to blend it in. And if I screw it up, I can always correct it. Because today is a day where I'm just feeling like it's that kind of day. It's that kind of screwing up kind of day. Yesterday was bad. Like I think I screwed up everything. Everything with dinner, I made little screw ups. Like there are some nights where I can just nail dinner, where I get it like everything gets put together perfectly. It all is ready at the same time. And last night it was just like these little things, like a little thing with every single dish. All right, a little bit of a shadow there. I need to bring up my highlights a little bit more. Ah, that's too much. There we go. Blended that in a little bit. There we go. So yeah, suggesting consistent highlight and shadow when you're only working with part of a surface is very difficult. Yeah, brass, the difference between brass and gold and bronze is just like the colors you use. Gold is much yellower, brass has a little bit of coldness to it, bronze is a little more brown, especially when it starts to tarnish. There we go, getting just some basic highlights on Mr. Bull. And we've got these little highlights to bring out with the sculpt, which is nice. Kind of gives us a little bit of guidance as far as how to highlight. Oh, nice. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Dwarven Forge. I was the one who made the paint line, so you are totally like on my good list now. Although I abdicated to my protege, Sadie. She makes the paint now because I moved. But the initial up through Pathfinder, everything was me for the most part. So here we're kind of do a compromise between, we want to highlight the bull's head consistently so that we can see the details, but we also then need to pay attention to where our NMM highlights would be and some shadows. So first I'm just going to highlight things like in line with how I would highlight anything. Then I'm going to go back after I've done that, after I've brought out the details, I'm going to go back and say, okay, now how is this going to change since it's metal? Or where do I need to pop a highlight? If I don't want to spend a ton of time on the shield, I still want it to look good. HD got integrated into Bones for the most part for Becca. A lot of colors did not make the cross. HD did not sell well. It did. When we released Bones, Bones was really a step up. And so HD sales were not as good as Bones. So Ed decided we didn't need two smaller paint lines. So what happened is that HD got canceled, and then there were some popular colors in HD, and Ed chose to bring some of those back in the Bones line. So things like Meadow Green and Dragon Blue got put in Bones along with some new colors. Bringing my highlights up a little bit more now. Again, kind of looking at how I'm going to be adding shading in a little bit. You like the cases, huh? That's good. All right, so I'm putting a dark shadow underneath the nose ring here. I'm going to do the nostril. Do want to get some lining in to pick out little details. I don't want to do something like the brow ridge or anything here yet, but I do want some. I'll probably use green in here because that's where water would definitely pool. And it still counts as a shadow. Hey, somebody's here to fix our kitchen light. So yeah, in addition to all of the other challenges today, guys, our kitchen light went out last night when I was in the middle of cooking. I was not, it's been a week. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just looking forward to my road trip this weekend where we're going down to see my folks. Haven't seen my parents for or my family, the rest of my family for 2 years or so. So that will be nice. So darkened that shadow there. Probably going to put a little bit of green in up here. So yeah, we have somebody in our kitchen repairing and it was a weird LED kitchen light. We actually dismantled it to see if we could just change out a bulb, and it was funky LED light, which is awesome for conserving power, right? But totally not fixable by average human. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm glad you guys like the cases. There. So using a little bit of this green just as a shader works fine because it is such a nice dark color. Now I'm going to start to pinpoint where my highlights are going to be, my highest highlights. Yeah. Yeah, we're just going to drive down honestly to the desert because we decided to just meet in the middle, GB, and it's like a 12-hour drive for them, for either of us to get, because they're in Arizona and we're in mid-California. We're in the Bay Area. So we just decided to split the difference and each drive 6 hours. So we're just going to meet up and have dinner, and, it's just so I can see my parents and talk to them and they can see me. And then hopefully by summer I'll be able to actually take a flight out to see my brother and his family. But it's a 6-hour road trip. And so I picked up a new audiobook for David and I to listen to in the car. Alrighty. So now I'm just popping up little bits of area, and now I'm going to put a... Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody's got a different paint organization system, right? That's one of the things that makes us unique. Everybody's got their own thing. So I want to put a high highlight. Boom. And then boom. I'm just going to put little, like, catch lights here and there. Like, sometimes on small areas, you just need that little pop of white light. Because you won't have time to do all of the different steps of NMM. So you definitely want to focus on where your highest highlights will be. There's definitely a highlight here and here. There's definitely going to be a highlight here. Probably one... that's circular, so we have to like really question where our light is coming from. Let me look at this. Sometimes when you're doing a complicated area like this, yeah, that's definitely under reflection. This is definitely going to be brightest highlight. So brightest highlight's going to be here. Under reflection is going to be here. And I'm mocking them in white, even though technically my under reflection shouldn't be quite that bright, but I can always take this highlight color and kind of take these guys down a little bit by just painting it over them. A little bit of an under reflection back here. Yeah, there we go. Starting to get there. I need some shadows. Yeah, it can be fun to plan your hobby station, right? Super fun. Mine is kind of where I want it, like right now, at least for the space it's in, right? For the small space I have. So remember, we need a dark shadow next to our bright highlight to get contrast in here. And for these guys, that dark shadow is going to be kind of in where the lining is. Can't do a whole lot when you've got these little tiny areas, but definitely a dark shadow here. Shadow, shadow. Just trying to get like a little bit of contrast in there. Shadow. And this is such a complicated area that we could go back and forth on this quite a bit to try to make it look right, correcting the little bits that aren't quite right. There's a lot of different areas here that I could probably improve on. And there's not a lot of room to do like under reflections, which, you know, give you that extra dimension of reflectiveness with your NMM, which are really a necessary part of it. So I can do one on the horn there, but not a whole lot. Honestly, 95% there is good enough, Max. The time to change something in your paint setup is when it takes you too long to find the paint that you want. Then you should question and say, okay, how could I set this up so it's a little bit more convenient? Because everything in your paint setup should enable your hobbying. When setting up your paint setup distracts you from hobbying, then you've gone too far in the other direction. I'm going to put a dark shadow here to separate the bull's head from the red around it. Hey, I think that maybe they either fixed the kitchen light or they came in and take a look at it and went, oh, I totally don't have the tools for this, and then they left. Alright, so I think that's pretty good for the bull face. I think I want a little bit of dark there. There. I think that's a little bit better. Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, becoming a secondary hobby to organize your workspace. Well, as long as you still paint. That's the thing. Like I said, when you're organizing your paint space can be the biggest, procrastination tool ever. Like, it's fun and all, but it should really be... It should be all about making it easier for you to do everything in your hobby. But then again, if you're really, into the interior designer groove, rock it. Just don't come up to me at ReaperCon and say, "And I was going to get stuff done for the painting competition, but I didn't because I was organizing my workspace too much." Then I'm going to, give you the look. That look. Yeah, it should last basically forever, right? That's what I figured, because it's an LED. But I figured maybe the battery pack or the power pack in the middle of it kind of shorted, because it flickered and then it just went out like a regular light last night. I was afraid, to be honest, I was afraid we were losing power, and so it was good that we weren't losing power and it was just that light, but still annoying when you're trying to cook an involved dinner with four things going at once. Alright, I think we're good here, really. I'm going to just do a little tiny extra highlight of these little tufts here. Just to bring them out. Yay. Shiny! Oh, it's an LED, Pendrake, so it's a weird kind of flat, it's just this funky circuit board surface underneath the light. So David and I took one look at it and went, "Oh, we're calling in somebody." Yeah, if it had just been a bulb, we have the capacity. David is very much a do-it-himselfer when he would prefer not to call somebody into the apartment. Especially with COVID. He's very much if he can figure out how to fix it, he will. And since he's so good with tools and putty and adhesives, he can fix a lot of stuff that goes wrong. But not this. Yeah. We both kind of looked at it and went, okay. We give up. It is about time to call it, I think, guys. But we got our shield done. Shiny shield. Look at all that marble. Look at all that awesome. I think we're cool. No, not a light bulb here. Like a flat LED panel. It's a flat panel, Pendrake. With just little squares that emit light. So yeah, there we go. Now I can actually put this arm on finally, because I think we've done everything that I need to have area for. Yeah, so we're good. I can now attach this arm and then putty it. And next time we're gonna we should finish repainting the arm, touch up some areas of stonework that I noted that I needed to do something to, and get the last of the feathers and the spear done. She is, and then maybe I also need to just put a little extra work on her base because it's very rough. Just a little bit. I don't want a lot down here because I don't want it to distract from her. But I do need, I've got some nice marbly texture going on. I just want to emphasize that a little bit with some highlights. And then she'll be pretty good. By the way, guys, notice that I've been handling the space nonstop. And notice how well the paint has stuck. So, I mean, Master Series. My skin may not be terribly acidic also. Who knows? Some people are more acidic than others. But in general, it's just the edge that I've lost a tiny bit of paint on. So, and I think that the marbling back here looks fantastic. So, Yeah, Crowley. It was pretty much like that. I was like, no. So yeah. So there we go. Yeah, I'm really happy with how the marble looks on the back of the shield and on the back of this leg. Like, I love the pattern that I've got going on. I think it looks fantastic. When you're that happy with something, you're just like, yee, I did right. I did right. All right, let's back up and take a look at it. Boop, boop. Get distracting things out of the frame. Look at us. She's so pretty. Like, yeah, just this the rest of the bronze now, and just a little bit more little details. The straps on the inside of the arm, I think I want to go red with, just like the straps on the back of the greaves. But in general, I think this is turning out really well. I'll probably send this one around. He could probably use a female gladiator statue in the gallery, right? Right? I think she's really cool. And I like how the shield came out. I think it's got just enough color on it. And just not to distract. And it's a nice counterpoint. And if we check, she's all stone from that angle. And then when we go over here, she's all living from this angle except for the helmet. And she's got a few streaks of stone like coming up here. But otherwise, there you go. Yeah, so just a little bit more on her. Just a little bit more. We're coming to the end on several of our models. It seems like they go in batches. Like, I try to make them alternate. Like, I've been trying to, like, kick in new ones, like, irregularly, so that we're always, like, working on some projects where we're right at the start and some projects where we're really close to the end. And it seems like everything is ending at about the same rate. It's very annoying. I do my best. All right, guys. There we go. So Reaper, summoning disembodied hands or brain, Justin or John. Give us a raid. And yeah, I'll be on my Twitch channel later, guys. Just to recap, yeah, we did some red highlighting on various surfaces to show how high I go on it. We did some bronze work. We talked about NMM a lot. Yeah, I have a Patreon. For those who like my teaching style, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/paintingbig. And my Twitch TV is twitch.tv/paintingbig as well. So I'll be on there later, probably working on my halfling. Kalu, that is the one place that I am not an expert. I am not, I don't do mecha. I don't do vehicles. It's my shortcoming. I have to work on it. So probably not. Also, Reaper doesn't do, anymore. They don't do mech figures really, but anyway, we'll talk about that. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody, and I will talk to you later. Bye.